If by some chance, some stroke of luck, or some act of God, you have stumbled upon this broadcast, you are listening to the Chivalry Chronicles with your host, DLH, David, and me, Jaime. I hope you're ready, because I know we are. So let's get into it. How's it going, everyone? I'm here with David. DLH was not able to make it today, but that's okay. We'll continue. The show must go on. So we're guys. I guess our show is guy stuff that guys do because we're guys. You know, guys like lists. I mean, that's the night code is a bunch of lists. Basically, everything we have is lists. Top 10 this. Who's the top 5 quarterbacks? Who's the top 5 teams? So today, I figured we'd talk about a list of the rules for being a true fan since the NFL season's ramping up here within the next week. College football is already started. So, welcome, David.
Hello, hola, howdy. I don't know the other languages, but they'll fit in here somewhere. They'll mend in, but no, looking forward to it. I know football season always builds like some kind of emotion. It pushes that whole men talk to a different level. It's like a season that most men look forward to. Even the ones that are not into football kind of gravitate to it. I think the fall theme, just everybody starts focusing on work, and our outlet is typically like a football, and knowing that season is coming back into play, having ties to your university or to a particular pro team, but even outside of football, I mean, the start of other sport seasons start kicking in the fall, so it's kind of a great time to be around.
Yeah, there's such a gray area after, I guess. The NBA season wraps up. I mean, we have baseball, which is good. That kind of takes us through basically July and the first part of August. But to me, I mean, the NFL's king, and we're roughly about 5 days away from the beginning of the 2024 season. So I figured, hey, let's talk about this. This is an article from Bill Simmons. This was written probably somewhere 2010. He was with ESPN at the time. Bill Simmons, I believe, is with The Ringer. He also has some podcasts, The Rewatchable, some other stuff like that. But I thought this list was really good, and so let's get to it. We won't go through all of them, but I'm gonna pick a few, and we can discuss them. So the first 6 or so are attire. So these are rules for to be a true sports fan. So if you're a true fan, let's start with the attire. So it says these are his rules, and I'm going to say whether I agree with them or not. But it says the number one. It says you can't purchase a blank, authentic jersey from your favorite team with no name on the back, then stick your own name and number on the jersey, unless you want to be an enormous dork. So raise your hand if you have a jersey with your name on the back, and I'm raising my hand right now. I got that as a gift from my dear sister. I love it, and it had I'm a Cowboys fan, so it had Tony Casillas back in the early '90s, and it says Noriega on the back. So, David, do you agree with that one or not?
I don't, because at the end of the day, if you're going to spend money and not have to worry about, oh, so-and-so left the team, or change. It's something everlasting. You can tie it to a number that's meaningful to yourself. So I don't have a problem. I personally don't own a jersey that has my name in the back, and I think it's just because the cost to make one sometimes outweighs the deals that you can get on some of the other players that are readily available.
It's probably upwards of $200 now to get a personalized jersey.
Yeah, usually whenever I go usually whenever I visit San Francisco or up in Santa Clara, I stop by the Niners store,
right?
And they have, of course, the little at the end of that store, you can customize, get a jersey, all that other stuff. So I've gotten close on the brink, but then when they tell you $400 for that, I'm okay.
I love my team. But...
Yeah, I'm fine with my Temu version of McCaffrey.
Right. I will. Full disclosure, I have heard the other argument against jerseys. It's kind of, I don't know if it's childish, but it's like, why would you wear another man's jersey? I don't subscribe to that either. I mean, some people, hey, don't buy it then. It's like nobody's making you wear it. But yeah, I have heard that, which I kind of disagree with. But let's go on to number 2. It says if you're attending an NBA game, don't wear the jersey of the team that isn't competing in the game. So we had this discussion earlier, David and I kind of agree with it. Like if we're in San Antonio, if I go watch the Spurs and Lakers play, I'm a Mavericks fan. I don't think I would feel the need to wear a Mavericks jersey. Definitely wouldn't wear a jersey, maybe a hat, but even that, it's kind of dicey. I don't have a skin in the game, so just go enjoy the game and root for whoever. So David, I think you had the opposing view.
Well, mine's a little bit or slightly altered in the sense that I don't think that you should show up and try to really pound your team into these 2 other opposing teams that are not when your team's not even playing, right?
Exactly.
But I do agree, wearing a cap or maybe even just a T-shirt that has your team, mainly to signal to the fans that you're sitting around, hey, I'm not tied to this team, I'm not tied to that team. So when you hear me either clap or hear me boo, it's purely from a game standpoint versus, well, I take that back. If there's like a playoff run going on and
you need that team
to lose or win. Yeah. So that could evoke. Yeah. But you don't need to pick a fight if it's not warranted.
Absolutely. These next will go pretty quickly. So one is, don't wear cheap looking replica jerseys or flimsy bargain basement hats. I agree with that. I know they're expensive. We just got through talking about how much they are. I think just your basic jersey right now is probably in $180 range. Hey, not everybody can just throw on $180, but if you can, please just buy, team gear. Something with the NFL logo, something with your logo on there. It looks odd. I know some people wear it, and I get it. I mean, if that's all you can afford, but I kind of do subscribe to buy the good stuff if you're gonna buy it. Save up your money, put it on your Christmas list. My sister, when when I was in college and broke, my sister was really good about getting me team gear. Like I loved her for it. I was like, this is awesome. I can afford it, but at the time you're so broke that you just trying to make it through. She would buy me a lot of that stuff, and so I think when I graduated, I would buy them the jerseys just as a thank you for getting me through five years of college or whatever.
I kind of have a different take on that.
Okay, what you got?
Like, by no means am I communicating to the world, hey, go and get counterfeit items and things of that sort. But
it's against the law.
I do sympathize with somebody that just doesn't have the means to afford that and or has their priorities correct in the right sense. So if buying a replica $30-$40 and it's your team's colors, it's your team's colors, or it people are not really noticing. Right. I mean, I know, like for shoes, I know women tend to notice other people's shoes. I don't notice shoes unless it's pointed out to me. Those types of things don't come to mind.
Yeah.
It's going to be the same thing with a jersey, unless you're like, oh, look at that. Did you notice that the NFL logo's slightly twisted?
MFL?
Like, I really don't care. I mean, they're there to support their team. Maybe they're even at the stadium.
Yeah.
That stadium ticket is expensive.
No, it is.
So yeah. I can sympathize even whenever you do have the means to do so with somebody that wants to support the team, but at the same time knows that at the end of the day they need to pay rent and they need to maintain the lifestyle that they've that they need to take care of it.
I think. I mean. You're getting a little deep again here on the discussion. This is very light discussion. Yeah, well, I've seen the same people that you're talking about drop a couple $100 on beer. So, I mean, it's priorities.
Well, once again, it's the priorities. I never question a man or a woman's priorities in life. Everybody has their different splurges. Everybody can do that. I think at the end of the day, you don't want your jersey to look so out of context with what your team is team jersey looks like.
I would only revise my statement. Like if you've had a jersey from the mid '80s and you continue to wear that jersey, and that's it, I'm cool with that. Like if it's a 1985 Danny White jersey, I'm with you. Like wear that jersey because that's the player that you loved. Continue to wear that jersey. I actually respect that. But yeah, I mean, I guess I can see it. But personally, I just go buy your replica jersey and get it over with. My son wears replica jerseys. Everyone, basically in our family, I have to do it. That's just me though.
Yeah, right. And there's certainly nothing wrong with doing that because we don't necessarily have to have the full authentic jersey.
No,
because at the end
on the field jersey. No,
yeah, because think of that, and I do have one on the field type jersey. I remember the person who got it for me spent like $400 for this jersey.
If I have that, and then I'm hanging it.
Unfortunately, that it was TO. It was a TO jersey. And it was given to me, and literally that following season. So this was during Christmas that it was gifted to me. The following season, guess what?
He got traded.
He went, and guess where he went?
The Eagles.
He went Eagles.
Yeah.
So at that point it was like, oh, I want to wear this jersey, but I can't right now. Like now after the fact, I could sport it. It's way big. I was a lot bigger back then, but.
Funny story. There was so as sports fans, we have jinxes, which is another probably podcast we could do about it. Just sports jinxes. So my little brother, every time we bought jerseys, whatever jersey he picked, that player would get hurt for the season. And so we were always very, very particular about, oh man, we can't buy him a Des Bryant because Des Bryant got hurt that year that we bought him that jersey. Or the following season, someone else got hurt. And so we joke about it. So I think that was it was really funny that for a while there we're like, oh man, you're getting the third string like wide receiver or something. We can't have CeeDee Lamb miss for the whole season. Okay, so number 4, it says don't wear replica championship rings as a conversation starter. This I kind of agree with. I do know someone personally that does wear them, and I mean they're cool. They look cool. This person actually worked with the team for 10 years, and so they got him specifically because he worked for the team. They got him from the team, and so there's levels to championship rings. Like players get a certain level A or whatever, or level 1, and then the staff gets the one right below that, and then you get the replica ones that you can get at games. When you go to a game. So he has the one right under that
second tier.
Actual
and see, to me that was earned. Like
yes, because he was part of the team.
He put in work for that team.
Yeah, and so when he talks about that team, he says, "Well, I'm family," and I give him crap about it, but I do respect that because he worked for them for 12 years, something like that, and so he does wear them. Now, personally, I wouldn't, even if I did work for the team. because to me it's like I'm putting them in a box and I'm showcasing them at my house, and that way they retain their value. Now I think they still retain their value because they have a certificate of authenticity and all that. But he does wear them, and so I mean they're cool, and it is a conversation starter, and people will ask him because we'll go to meetings because he's a coworker, and it does get the conversation started. So I get it. I just wouldn't do it.
Yeah, so I would suspect that outside of the first year after winning that championship, I probably wouldn't wear it. I would display it.
Yeah.
But I mean, in that sense, with him, he earned it.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes to that. I'll do as I damn near please with my stuff.
No,
you know
absolutely.
What I mean?
It's your property. Yeah. Far be it from me.
And it is a conversation starter. And yeah, I would suspect that some people are going to be like, but you didn't play though. Yeah. But and
neither did the coach.
Exactly. So that's kind of where okay, he earned it. So you can like it, dislike it. You could even say the players that sat on the bench, you didn't do anything. You were just there just in case, but you didn't even suit up. Absolutely. Or I mean, you suited up, but you still got this ring, and for some they didn't. So yeah, I mean, I can't knock a man down for that. Now getting just because he showed up to the game, that one would be a heck of a lot more silly. Other than maybe the week after, to wear it.
No, absolutely.
Yeah,
I agree.
That would be silly
at all.
Yeah.
But to have...
You're because one of 10,000 fans, the first 10,000 fans to show up, get this ring, and you got one of those rings, like, come on, man.
That's actually...
Display it. You don't do that.
I have one on top of my humidor for the Rangers last year, and that one, I didn't even go to the game. One of my fraternity brothers was like, hey, I went to the game, picked it up, and I said, how much you want for it? Send the money. He mailed it. Cool. Because I probably would have spent the same amount of money buying a ticket, driving up to Arlington, from San Antonio, staying the night, all that stuff. So I actually saved some money, and I just put it on top of my my humidor, and it's there. So
just don't let me catch you wearing it.
Oh, I'm gonna wear it right now.
You're gonna get roasted. You're gonna get roasted.
No, well, I've already said I wouldn't wear it. Along the same line, it says when your team wins a championship, it's your civic duty to purchase as much paraphernalia as possible. Don't be ashamed. Hats, t-shirts, sweatshirts, videos, cars, magazines, books. There's no limit. And I agree with that. I mean, I think I bought, I don't know how many hoodies with the Rangers that won here last season. When the Mavericks won, I think I have the hat, the shirt, the jersey, the sweatshirt, all that stuff. It's just, I mean, you have to. I mean, I think there was a study that said that in your lifetime, your team is maybe going to win one championship. And so, I mean, you don't know when it's going to come after that, right? So you got yours, that's it. Like, I mean, you live in the moment, I guess. So I agree with that one.
Yeah, I'm definitely okay with that. I mean, I relate it down to, it depends on the type of money you have, and if that's where you want to prioritize that money, that's totally cool.
Yeah, if you wait long enough,
they go on sale.
They go on clearance.
Yeah, in fact, just wait. If you can wait 1 year, it'll go on real clearance. Mm-hmm. So that $60 hat today, with the championship, you could probably get it for $9-10, especially if it's not a popular team in general outside of the fact that they won. Like when the Spurs are winning, just because we're not a big market team.
Oh yeah.
You wait. If you wait enough,
if you go now, they're still on clearance.
Yeah, but they still have more championships than the Mavs. So when there's an abundance of championships, you're gonna there's gonna be more.
There's extra. So the first 6 were attire, and then the next I don't know, 4 or 5 are basically just behavior, and these are pretty good. And this is a discussion that I think if you're a sports fan and you've discussed it and you've argued back and forth, this is a kind of a big topic. It says be careful when using the word "we" with your favorite team. Use it judiciously. Just remember, you don't wear a uniform, you don't play any minutes, and you're not on the team. So I think this is probably one of the biggest violations of most sports fans. And so, David and I were talking about it earlier, and I said, I agree with that. Like, I rarely say we. I don't try to say we. I am not on the team. The only one that I will say we, and even that's judiciously, is with the college that I went to, Texas A&M. I will say we because I did go to that school. I did, I am part of the 12th man, and so that's the only one that you kind of I can get away with a little bit. But for the most part, I just don't say we. I usually say the team, or they need to, or stuff like that. I don't know if that's a big thing with you, if you've heard it. I hear it all the time. Anytime I talk to any sports fan, anytime you're talking about sports.
Yeah, I think we say we because we're part of it in the sense of the emotions that come with it. Maybe not at the same. Yeah, I will use the word we.
Yeah.
And I do that because I also want the person that I'm talking to know where my allegiance lies.
Right.
So if I'm saying we and I'm talking about the Niners, like, hey, you know where I stand.
Right.
And so I'm using it for that. But I know I want to say this was during last season. Richard Sermon, he's got his own podcast, and I was listening to that, and he was talking about Seattle fans being upset because he will say a lot of good things about Seattle, and he'll also say a lot of good things about the Niners, right?
Right.
And so he'll play both in a sense, and some Seattle fans will get really upset with him, and I imagine Niner fans vice versa. But he specifically pulled out how Seattle they would say, "Oh, well, you jumped ship, you did this. We gave you the championship. We did this." And he said when they used the word "we," no. You brought me a championship? No. If I recall right, our team brought Seattle that championship.
Right.
Like, none of us even grew up in Seattle. We just ended up there playing for a team, and we brought Seattle that championship.
Yeah.
Seattle did not bring that to us. And I can understand what he's saying because, I mean, they're not part of our team, but I also see it from a fan level that we have skin in the game, too. We have skin in the game in the sense that we're buying tickets, we're helping, we're helping fund, and I want them to make as much money as they can. I want their livelihood to be as best as they can, as I would want for my family. You know what I mean? Right. So at the end of the day, he's right in the sense that Seattle didn't bring him anything.
No, and I think that's an idiotic statement, though. I mean, one, as a fan, why are you arguing with a player? Like, I mean, that's kind of dumb. And yes, I agree. He brought the championship. A similar situation is George Teague, who played with the Packers, I believe, and then he ended up with the Cowboys. And he pumps the Cowboys a lot. And so he got a bunch of grief by Packers fans that said, hey, you played for the Packers. Why aren't you pumping us up? And he said, well, I'm going to tell you why. Jerry Jones has taken care of me and my family. I get invited to the games. They invite me and my family to, any games that they have. The Packers have not even, called me. So I'm going to ride with who rides with me. And I was like, okay, that's cool. That makes sense. Like if one team is catering more to you and inviting, then I can see you saying, hey, come see the Cowboys. So I thought that to me made a lot of sense. And if the Packers don't really care about you, then...
Well, you also...
We'll be back after a quick break.
If you're in the greater San Antonio area, we have an event for you this October. The Omega Delta Phi San Antonio Alumni Association will be hosting its 12th annual Halloween-themed Fall Festival. It will be held at the Boys and Girls Club located at 615 Peacock Avenue near the historic Woodlawn Lake. This is a free, family-friendly event filled with games, prizes, music, a costume contest, food, and a haunted house. If you need more information, go to our website at odfisanantonio.org and then click on Fright Night. I understand the dynamics, though, of the Packers, that they're owned by fans.
But they have an owner, so I mean,
yeah,
they could invite him to one of the games.
They could, but the dynamics are a little different.
Yeah.
I would say versus Jerry's just going to run the ship.
Yeah.
Regardless of what everybody else thinks.
So the other one here. Some of these other ones we're going to skip through because they're not worth it. So this one says no hopping on and off the bandwagon during the season with the flip flop. I knew we were going to self destruct, and then all right, we won 6 straight. I knew we wouldn't keep playing this well. I knew we'd bounce back. Routine as the season drags on. So it says, just for the record, this is probably the biggest fault as a sports fan. I overreact to everything, and I've already written off the Celtics 3 times this season and given up. And he's this is an old article.
Yeah.
But I guess I don't know if that's hopping on and off the bandwagon, but you can express frustration with your team, not to the point where like, oh, we're going to suck. I think we talked about this previously. I think when you get around other people that root for the same team, I think you will get that. If I'm around a bunch of Cowboys fans, then they are going to say, man, we're going to suck this year. Or, oh man, this guy sucks. But when you're around other fans, you probably won't say that, because you're trying to keep that, in reserve. You don't want to show that, man, you feel a certain way. So I get that. I mean, I think that's just being a fan. I personally, I don't think I'd go overboard. I'm very level-headed about it. I mourn the loss when I mourn a loss, but it's back to the 24 hours, right? Then you move on. But I that's the only one that, I mean, you gotta give fans a little bit of a leeway, right? A little bit of grace. Like when they follow their teams, they live and die by them, and you're going to be frustrated sometime during the season. Like, you're going to be frustrated, so it's okay to express that frustration. So
yeah, well, I agree with that, but just a pro tip here. I'll always have that. It's rebuilding year. Have that ready to go. So if you do that, then when in doubt, you just say, "Oh, it's a rebuilding year."
So every year's a rebuilding year.
It works every time. So if your team just starts going, well, it's a rebuilding year, then you can always exceed that expectation.
That's a cop-out, sir.
If you're in a win now situation and your team is doing well, you don't have to leverage it. But if they start losing, well, we've been looking at rebuilding this whole time. So always have that in your back pocket. Just a little tip there. But yeah. No, I think you do have to. You do have to. Part of being a fan is having emotions.
Yeah.
And so you are going to have frustration. You are going to express that. Everyone's a human. Players express it. Coaches express it.
Right.
Anyone involved with it in any form or fashion is going to have some ties to it. Right. So it's just natural.
Along the same lines, it's okay to root against your team, and I know this is another big topic with fans. Bill Simmons did a really good job of detailing these out, and so he says if they're hopelessly out of the playoff race, and you want them to keep losing, so they'll get a better draft pick, or you're hoping your coach and or GM will get fired, then it's okay to do that. And I guess it's okay. I personally wouldn't. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't root for my team to fail. But if they, let's say the Mavs are out of the playoffs and they can creep up a little bit higher in the draft order, then maybe sit whomever.
Yeah, so I don't think I've ever rooted for my teams to lose.
Yeah.
But I have comfort
that
knowing that if it is a loss, it is. Even when the Spurs before what was it, 2 years ago, right before Wemby,
Yeah.
Like, they didn't hit that bottom. I think Detroit got the
Detroit
worst.
Yeah.
And it was like there were fans that were like, "Oh, what are you doing? Why are y'all winning these last, I don't know, 2 or 3 games? I don't remember. It was something like that where they got on this little hot streak." But I just appreciated the fact that they were playing. Like, that team was not equipped to make a playoff run whatsoever, but I can appreciate a culture or a mindset that says, hey, we may not be top dog by any means. We may not even be anywhere close, but effort's got to be there. Because I think that culture carries on. And if it doesn't, that's whenever you got to talk about whole regime change. That's where I have to go back to the Niners years ago. Whenever they were losing, they were switching out coaches like a carousel, and Trent Baalke was running the team, and that guy, to me, just didn't instill, well, I think him as well as the overall culture was just like not putting effort on the field.
I just don't think it just doesn't make any sense to me. If they end up doing it, then whatever.
That's whenever you just say it's a rebuilding year.
Yeah. So some of these other ones are fine. I mean, don't be your team, blah, blah, blah. So here's one that when I read it, I was like, this makes a lot of sense. And I get it. This is number 12, back on behavior. It says, after your team wins a championship, they immediately get a 5-year grace period. You can't complain about anything that happens with your team, trades, draft picks, salary cap cuts, coaching moves, for 5 years. There are no exceptions, and that's it. Like, and I agree with that. Like, if they brought you a championship, then they need a little bit of grace, just like we talked about fans needing a little bit of grace for them to be frustrated. They delivered what not many teams have. So 5 years, I think, is pretty good. Like, you can't complain.
Yeah.
You got a championship. Even if they, like the Rams, right? A couple of years ago,
mm-hmm.
they
were a win now. They were in a win now situation.
All their draft picks. Yeah. I don't think they have another first round draft pick till like 2026. I don't know. They traded everything away. And it looked pretty bad there for a second. Then they win a Super Bowl, and it's like, all that was for that Super Bowl. So, you can't complain about, we don't have a first round draft pick or whatever. And I totally agree with that one. And the only thing that it's, what if your team wins back-to-back Super Bowls? Is it 10 years or is it still within the 5 years? Do you?
I think unfortunately for the team, I think most fans are not gonna do the 10.
So the Patriots, right? They won 6. I believe.
They owned the 2000s.
So you have 30 years. Like, you can't say anything.
Yeah. You would think that, but
no, they're already complaining now.
Well, yeah. Well, because the expectation is there.
Yeah.
I mean, the Spurs did it in basketball, where you're just always in the playoffs and always winning. That it's hard to then accept anything less. But the reality is, things change, dynamics change, people move on. Those trendsetters that laid the foundation and culture within that team. I mean, at some point they gotta retire. We all want our heroes to stick around forever, but that's not life.
Right.
Seasons start changing.
So the next couple are having to do with friends and relationships, and I think we discussed this on the night codes about waiting 24 hours before you give your friend hell because they lost, gloating, that type of stuff, being annoying. So 15, there's like A, B, and C. It says if your buddy's team loses a especially tough game, don't call him. Wait for him to call you. And when you speak to him, discuss the game in a tone normally reserved for sudden and unexpected deaths. And I think you texted me when the Stars lost in the playoffs, and also when the Mavs lost in the playoffs. And I think I would allow that. Like, that's cool. Like, don't be an ass. Like, your team wasn't in it. I was like, and just send a text like, hey, tough loss or whatever. I get that. I thought that was cool.
And that's that was my intent. Just to, like, I know what you're going through as a fan of sports teams that are going to go through those situations, and I will give you. I will offer that up, especially whenever it's coming, especially when the receiver, the person that you're offering that to, is not over there bringing or surfacing banter or trying to demean your team.
Right.
Like there's bros that are just constantly,
all day.
Their team this, their team that, their team, and it's like, shut up. Shut up. And if they don't, okay, just know you just invited
me to call you. Yeah.
Now I'm your villain.
Yeah.
Whereas I know where your allegiance is. I don't like your teams at all. But that's okay. I mean, and it's okay. We've exchanged between our teams things here and there, but you're not out looking for blood whenever there's none to be had.
Right, exactly. Now, I think conversely, if your friend's team wins a championship, something like that, I know I went to Texas A&M, and a lot of the people that I hung out with, a lot of my fraternity brothers were from Houston. I mean, pretty much most of the chapter was from Houston. And at the time, the Astros weren't that good. I mean, I'm a Rangers fan, they're Astros fans, and we'd kind of have, back and forth, kind of talk smack to each other. But when the Astros won their first championship, I texted the two brothers that I was like, that guy right there is a true diehard Astros fan. I know, because when I met him, he was an Astros fan, and they weren't very good. So I did text him. I was like, congrats. Like, that's badass. I mean, you just kind of give a, just kind of a knowing nod, like they got it. That's cool. And to me, that's okay too, to go the other way, just to say, hey, you don't deserve it, but it's cool that your team.
That kind of starts going to that we talk earlier, though.
Huh?
That kind of goes to the we talk earlier.
Well, it doesn't, because
they're not the ones playing.
No, but they're the ones that are living and dying with every game, going to the games, being a season ticket holder, buying the paraphernalia, keeping them relevant. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, to me, that says, hey, I've been rooting with this team.
Yeah.
And so when they win, by all means, enjoy it. So I will say that I think it's good to go the other way also. So let's see. So let's go to, I'm going to pass some of these up, and I want to get to the ones that are loyalties. And these, to me, when I read this list, I thought it was pretty good, and I have kind of adopted most of it as when we discuss loyalties, because inevitably you're going to find someone that when you met them in college or something, they were, for instance, they were a Rockets fan. And then you move to San Antonio, and then you see him, and he moves to San Antonio, and you go have lunch with him, and he's wearing Spurs gear, and you're like, what the hell? Like, I thought you were a Rockets fan. Oh, well, I live here now. I'm a Spurs fan. And to me, that just, I mean, my blood boils, because it's like, what do you mean you're a Spurs fan? Like, your team didn't leave. You should still be a Rockets fan. So whenever Bill Simmons kind of wrote these down, I thought it was kind of cool, the way he itemized it and what you can do. So I'll read the first one. Actually, let's read all three, and then we can discuss. It says, if you live in a city that has fielded a professional team since your formative years, you have to root for that team. None of this. The Bengals weren't any good when I was growing up in Cincy, so I became a Cowboys fan. Also, you can't start rooting for a team, back off when they're in a down cycle, then renew the relationship once the team starts winning again. Once again, he uses the Cowboys. All the Cowboys fans who jumped off the bandwagon in the late 80s, jumped back on during the Emmitt Smith, Aikman era, then jumped back off in the late 90s. You know who you are. And I agree with that too. So now he says, in your formative years, I grew up in Dallas, and so, my teams are the Cowboys. the Dallas Mavericks, the Texas Rangers, and the Dallas Stars. That's where I grew up. And so, but what if you grew up in San Antonio or you're from Amarillo, right? What do? So what he says, let's say you chose a team. He said, once you choose a team, you're stuck with that team for the rest of your life unless one of the following condition applies. Your team moves to another city. Houston went through that. Then all bets are off. You can decide to turn off that sport entirely and no one would blame you. So I knew a bunch of those Houston Oilers fans that their team left, went to Tennessee, and they're stuck there like, we're Tennessee fans now because those are the Oilers. And it says, so what happened to some of those is that kind of they split. I know some people that stayed Tennessee fans because they were diehard Houston Oilers fans. And I also know diehard Houston Oilers fans who just switched over to the Texans. And that's one of the deals here. It says, if you grew up in a city that didn't have a field, that didn't field a team for a specific sport, so you picked a random team, then you can either your city landed a team, you moved to a city that fielded a team for that specific sport. So those are ways that you can change. One of the others that was funny is like if your immediate family member plays professionally or takes a relevant management coaching front office with that pro team. This one I hate. This is you follow your favorite college star. I really dislike that. That gets me to like the LeBron fans, that they were Cleveland fans and they were Miami Heat fans, and then now they're Lakers fans. I don't understand that. I follow players, but I'm not going to follow them to another team. Like if you play for the Cowboys, then I wear that. But if you leave, then I'm done.
But at the end of the day, they may not be a team fan; they're a player fan. So if they're carving that out, and that's been what they've stated the whole time, I can give them a pass.
But I think, I don't
agree. Like I have a fraternity brother, and he follows players, but he's stated the same player forever, right? So I know wherever that player is, that's where his allegiance is going to be. I give that person a little more respect than just some random guy that's just like balls to the wall. I'm now this sports team, and they're saying out loud, or they're portraying as they're a fan of the team first and then player. If they're coming across as I'm a fan of this player and I like what he or she's doing with the team, boom. Like if the team is secondary, then I get it. Your team is that player.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
I can give somebody a pass.
It's not a team.
I can give somebody a pass. Well, it doesn't matter. You're still rooting for that person. It's almost like if your kid went and played somewhere. If your kid went and played somewhere, yeah, you're going to be part of that team, right?
Well, you would root for your kid on that team, and
on
that's
that
what
team,
he says.
And then whenever your kid leaves,
you would root for that team, and that's one of the things here. And I can see that.
But there's a very distinct connection, right? Now, outside of that connection, the thing that rides up top, which is why I can give somebody that has stated first and foremost that primarily they are a ex-team fan because of the player. If they're saying that so that the team is actually secondary to the player, the player supersedes all of it, then I know they're team LeBron or whatever.
I think that'd be hard to do though, because when you're a kid, and I'm just using this as an example, right? When you're a kid, you don't root for players, you root for teams. Like along the same lines, the issue I don't have much of an issue. I just like, that's kind of cheap, is Texas Tech fans, right? That when Patrick Mahomes went to the Chiefs, they became
Chief fans,
right?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't become Chiefs fans because of Patrick Mahomes. That was kind of the secondary option. They became Chiefs fans because they started winning Super Bowls. If Patrick Mahomes sucked, would they become Chiefs fans? That's where I have an issue. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. It is a couple of things. Yes, their ties and their allegiance is with this player, but it just happened to be the team was good too.
They're winning Super Bowls.
Yeah. Well, but
they weren't Dolphins
now
fans,
with
were
that
they?
said though, could it be that those tech players brought those championships?
Not Wes Welker. So
Possibly, but he was an impact player for the Patriots.
He was a receiver on the Patriots team.
Yeah, and a really good Patriots team.
Bill Simmons has a basically a corollary. It says that if you follow your favorite college star, and this has to be a once in a generation favorite college star to the pros, and root for his team du jour. Like if you're an UNC fan for the past 20 years and you rooted for the Bulls because of MJ and the Raptors because of Vince, only works if there isn't a pro team in your area. And I like that too. So I guess you can give Patrick Mahomes a pass because he is a generational type player. But Wes Welker, come on. I mean, that dude bounced around. He was with the Dolphins. I mean, he wasn't an elite wide receiver.
Yeah.
So that one, no. I mean,
but if
you did that, then you would just pick whatever player from your college that wins Super Bowls. Now I'm a fan of that team, and I just think you're bouncing around too much.
Well, but at the same time, I think what it really boils down to for me is are they saying I'm this fan? I'm a Chiefs fan. Are they saying that, or are they really saying and have expressed Mahomes went to Tech, I'm all about Chiefs right now? I think it depends on how they lay it out. So if I know you could connect the dots and you could say, oh well, this person's tied to them because of this. But if they're saying and portraying out loud that the primary reason they're rooting for X team is because of a person, I'm okay with that because they laid out that it's the person first who they're really rooting for.
But what they're not saying is really bold, right? I'm rooting for the Chiefs because of Patrick Mahomes and because they're winning Super Bowls. That's the part you don't hear.
Yeah, well,
the part that I have an issue with.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I think.
I mean, Wes Welker. Oh, I'm a fan of the Patriots because of Wes Welker, and because they're winning Super Bowls. So they're not rooting for who was the other quarterback? Name another run-of-the-mill Texas Tech quarterback. They're not rooting for that team.
Peters.
You know, it's like, so I have an issue with that because you're only doing it because they're winning Super Bowls. They're being, they're successful. And so just say that. Just say you're a bandwagon fan, and then I'll let it go. That's because that's what it is. You're being a bandwagon fan, and I have an issue with that.
So if they lay out early on, I'm a such and such player fan, and that player goes on. So that player just got drafted to a team that went 0-16 or 1-15, whatever. Their first round pick or whatever, and that person's like, you know, I went to that college or I favorite that college. Yeah. That's my player. Now rooting for the Bengals or not, or I'm just trying to think of somebody else.
Okay. So I would have an issue with it if you had a team before, like, let's say you were rooting for Detroit Lions and you ended up going to Michigan or whatever.
Yeah.
And now you're following so-and-so. Well, then you're a bandwagon fan then. You're not a Detroit Lions fan. Like, you know, I agree with Bill Simmons. Once you choose a team, that is your team. And the only way that you can jump off of that team is what he stated here. Your team leaves, you know, or that's it. Like, or maybe, you know, like the Browns, they just.
But what if you have? I mean, the one thing that he didn't say is what if you have like a team owner like a Dan Snyder, or
did he take the lead? Did he take the team with him somewhere else? I mean, that's.
Well, no, I'm just talking about like whenever ethics and stuff like that.
I believe they're still Commanders fans, so I mean, they're still. That's. I don't think that carries enough weight. So to me, if you have a team, then that's your team, and you cannot stop rooting for that team because they're not doing well. You can't do it. The Patrick Mahomes thing, I guess he's a generational type player, so you can. But that tells me you're a bandwagon fan because you wouldn't be rooting for Patrick Mahomes if he wasn't winning Super Bowls. It's just, to me, it's like, I get it. You know, you want to enjoy it and all that. But that just means you're not. And part of it, one of the terms you use is sports bigamy. You're you know, I mean, we're in the United States, right? We're not in some other country where they allow multiple wives and stuff like that. I guess Utah does, you know. And just say you're not a true fan. I think if you choose a team, that's your team. And the reason people are bandwagon fans is because, one, they're weak. You know, if you just jump from team to team, you don't want the heartache. You don't want like seeing your team lose every year, which is going to happen. I mean, we just stated earlier, like in your lifetime, that I think the study was that you get maybe one championship for the 4 major sports, right? And so you're just afraid. You're afraid to commit. Basically, you have commitment issues with your team. And if it's that, then just state it. Say you're a bandwagon fan, but don't tell me you're a true fan because that's not the case. So,
when you're a kid and you choose a team versus an adult and choose a team, if you're a kid and you choose a team and you don't, you know, you're 5, 6 years old or whatever, maybe even 10 years old, but at the point you can really make a decision for yourself, I can give some grace to somebody that was like, okay, I was a kid here and I rooted for so and so. I became an adult. I established. I relocated. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I chose this. An adult, I'd have a harder time extending that grace to. But the kid.
I don't know. I saw Isaiah with the Rams jersey, and you weren't liking that too much.
Yeah, his mom. It wasn't because he was a fan. It was because his mom just picked it up at Ross on the cheap.
So
I did surface that. That was a parent conversation. That required a conference.
But I'm just saying, like, you didn't allow that, and I mean, he's what, 14?
Now he's 14.
He's making this own decisions.
No, he wasn't. His decision was to let his mom shop for him.
So I think this is, I mean, we could discuss this basically for the next 3 or 4 hours, but to me, it's such a great discussion because you run into this all the time. You meet people that rooted for this team and switch, and they're like, no, I'm not a bandwagon fan. Yes, you are. You had a team. They started, you know, not doing so well for X amount of years, and you jumped. That example that I used earlier, this guy was a Rockets fan in the mid-'90s when we were in college. So he saw the Rockets win 2 championships. He moves to San Antonio and switches teams. You had a team. And so what happens? He then becomes a Spurs fan in the early aughts. And then he sees the Spurs win another 5 championships. And I'm like, you didn't become a Spurs fan. You wouldn't have been a Spurs fan if they weren't doing well, right? You would have stayed a Rockets fan because they would be just as bad. But the fact that you changed, because you don't jump to a team that sucks, right? You jump to a team that's doing well. That's basically the definition of a bandwagon fan. That's the issue that I have with it. Stick with your team. That's the team you chose. That's the team that you wore their hardware. You wore their jerseys. So they're not doing well this year because let's say the Rockets were really good in the early odds. Let's say they were going to NBA Finals. You wouldn't have switched. You would have been like, man, I have been a Rockets fan since 1974 or whenever he was born or 1980. The only reason he switched is because the Rockets weren't doing well and the Spurs were doing well. And that's it. You're jumping ship. You're chasing championships. You're being LeBron, basically. You know what I'm saying?
Like me, for example, the Niners. I've been a Niners fan, I think, since 6 or 7 years old.
Okay,
one or the other. Either I was 6 or 7. Always been Niners fan. The Spurs, I didn't even know they existed until right around when David Robinson was drafted. And the reason I didn't know about it is in Amarillo, they were only showing. They didn't show the teams on like your broadcast networks. They would show some Mavs games, but the Mavs, I there for a while. If you told me they were like the minor league team playing once or twice a year against an NBA team, like I wouldn't have recognized. Oh, they're an NBA team too. They were that horrible. Whenever I was a kid,
I would say caution with your statements. The Mavs in the late '80s were really, really good.
I didn't say the late '80s. I said it early on. So I had liked the Lakers. I liked the Lakers.
So you were a Lakers fan.
Whenever I was a little kid,
So you were
I was a
Lakers
Magic Johnson fan more than anything. Now, fast forward to around 90. I see a Spurs game. I see a Spurs game on national TV. That was the first time I saw Latinos in an audience, like at a sporting event. And I was like, "Who are those? What is that team? San Antonio? Oh, I didn't know they had a team." And at that point, it was like, "Who are these Spurs?" And once again, I couldn't see them. There wasn't an internet or anything like that. Just to do
what
that.
Year was this?
I wasn't gonna. I think it was in 89 or 90 that I became a Spurs fan just because of that, for that reason. And I want to say was it 89 that Robinson was drafted? I think it was 89 or 90.
Yeah, somewhere around
I think it was 89. And that's why they were shown on national TV during that time. And I have stuck with the Spurs since. With baseball, before we started this conversation, I played the field. I played the field with them as a kid. I was a Rangers fan. I would have stayed a Rangers fan, but I feel they effed that up on their end. And I
think we debunked that myth.
No, it ain't debunked. But I ultimately committed myself to you specifically during the year that they won, before the championship, the Astros.
I believe your statement was, if they win this World Series, I'm an Astros fan.
Yeah, but I did that.
So it came with a caveat. If they did win, you wouldn't have become an Astros fan.
No, one caveat to what you said. You said it almost like I did, with the exception of
exactly how I said
it. We'll add a little bit of context, and then I'm going to tell you what I said. Okay. The context was the playoffs had just commenced for that season. It wasn't the World Series.
It was the World Series.
No, it wasn't the World Series. It was the playoffs. Because every time I came to your house, there was really no baseball.
When we went to the Spartan race. That's when we had the
discussion. No, we had it here at your house.
No,
we had it at your house. And I said, I'm rooting for the Astros to win the World Series. And if they win, then that's my sign that they are my team. That's what I said.
So cheap.
It could be so cheap. No.
I would call it violation. Right? No, there's no way.
No. That's what I said.
That's
what I said.
That's a terrible way to choose a team.
That was my sign that. And yes, there was the caveat that they needed to win, but not for me to not root for them.
That's what you said.
No, not for me to not root for them, because they weren't even favored.
No, you said
they were not favored that
year.
If
they win, I will be an Astros fan.
No, add the last piece. No, add the last piece. I was already a fan of the Astros.
No, see, I'm rooting for them, but if they win, I'll become an Astros fan.
No, I said I will stick to the Astros from this point on.
That's basically what I said.
Yeah, no, I won't
Which
jump.
Is terrible.
Because I had also shared, I've been jumping ship. I was always rooting for the underdog in the World Series. So I was going for the Indians when they played the Cubs. Did I win? No.
So you're a bandwagon fan.
No. I was always rooting. I was an underdog fan before that.
Yeah.
That's what I was.
So kids out there, don't do what David does. Don't jump from team to team. Because I think part of it is you wouldn't do it, I don't think, if you don't become a fan, or you don't jump unless your team is not doing well. Like nobody was jumping around the Patriots to another team. I don't care who it is. I would love to hear about somebody saying, I'm done with the Patriots and Tom Brady. Like you will ride that until the wheels come off. So to me I have so many issues with people jumping ship. But the backside of that is when you're a diehard fan and you've rooted for your team, basically your entire life, and they finally win one, it's a lot sweeter. You rooted for this team, since, like, let's say the Mavs in 2011. I mean, we rooted for that team. Me, my family, my brothers, my sister, since the 80s. I mean, we used to get free tickets to the Mavs in the early 90s because they were considered the worst team in the 90s. And I still was a Mavericks fan. I was like, I'm from Dallas. I'm a Mavericks fan. So when they won, that's who I celebrated with, was my family. And I said, look, this is our team, and they finally won. Boom. Same thing with the Rangers last year. We were fans from the 80s. You know what I'm saying? We went through everything, and they finally win. And it's a lot sweeter than saying, if they win, I'm a fan. No, I was a fan before. And it just, to me, that carries more weight than jumping from team to team. Because, I went to Texas A&M. I like Von Miller. Von Miller won a championship, so I'm a Broncos fan. It's idiotic. It's stupid. Don't do that.
Yeah, well, not diving into that, but I can understand that it is sweeter whenever you've been through all the ups and downs and you still stuck in there, which is why I think out of all my teams, the Niners probably gravitate the most to my heart. Even though from a pure sports standpoint, I prefer watching basketball more than I like watching football. Just from the pure sport stance, I prefer basketball to football. With that said, and maybe it's just because there's fewer games and there's only one weekly commitment versus 100 games in a year and every other night kind of thing. But I watch every Niner game, and if if I can't physically watch it, I guarantee I'm hearing it, whether it's from satellite radio or whatever. But I am paying attention to the game and committed to that. Basketball, I'll watch. I mainly start watching December, January is whenever I start paying attention. And baseball, I really enjoy watching it come September. Whether my team is in there or whoever I'm rooting for is in there or not. That's whenever it starts getting good for me. Now, with all of them, I'll go to a physical game, hands down, any day. But what's funny is I think football is probably the worst one to watch live out of all the sports that I've gone to live. Now, I'm not saying I don't dislike it.
That's a good question.
I'm not saying I dislike it by any means, and I'm not saying I wouldn't take a live ticket to go see the Niners play somewhere.
Right.
But from watching the game, on TV, I think football's better, whereas the other sports, I think live is slightly better, especially baseball.
Baseball is better live.
Basketball, absolutely. A little bit of a mix. It depends on your seat. Yeah. But if you're sitting in a 100 level section, basketball is really enjoyable because you're seeing the dynamics on the sidelines, the interactions. There's a lot more going on within a confined space where a football field is so large.
Right.
There's a lot to look at in a large field that makes it more difficult.
Right.
And then the sport that I really don't pay attention to is probably the most exciting live, and that's hockey.
Hockey is great.
Hockey is great live, but I cannot watch it on TV. It's boring on TV for me.
It is not boring.
To me, it's boring. I don't like it.
It's awesome.
Soccer. I have finally seen it live. I've seen it on TV. I don't like either. Like, get that out. You gotta go kick rocks. Sorry, soccer fans.
Yeah, my son played soccer, and we were at games, entire, tournaments where we were there all day. And it's different when it's your son, so you're there, you're rooting and everything. But yeah, soccer is one of those that, my family loves soccer. Like, they'll root for Mexico. And we grew up watching it. I was talking about this to a friend of mine. I was like, man, I remember in the late 80s, the World Cup and stuff like that, because it was a huge thing in our house. Me personally, I just never got that.
I can't get into it. I can't get it.
I'll watch it, and my brothers, they seriously they gotta get all into it. I never got into it. Football is probably more my number one. My little brother, he's a big, huge baseball fan, and my brothers are baseball fans. But each one of us have sort of their team, kind of, or their sport. But it's kind of funny that soccer is just one of those things I never got into. I have friends that I talk to on a regular, just about every week. We text, and they're into, soccer now, where they watch stuff overseas and, whatever, Manchester United and all that stuff. And I'm like, man, I don't have time to be watching soccer here, much less soccer overseas. Yeah. So I'm good. I stick to the four major sports. I watch college.
Well,
very little college.
Now, add a little bit of little bit more to that. The four major American sports.
The four major American sports. Yeah, hockey.
So I know soccer fans are over there. Yeah, football fans are over there.
Football. So it's football americano. And even we grew up in Dallas, like I've stated earlier, and we really weren't. None of us really watched college football. College football was something that was on New Year's Day, like maybe, and it's like I just never. None of us were ever college football fans in high school, and I really didn't even know anything about it until I went to college, and then it's like, oh, okay, so there's another thing. But even now, they're kind of, I guess, if you're faced, if A&M is playing, let's say
they got a big team or a notable team,
a big game, and the Cowboys are playing, I'm watching the Cowboys.
Yeah.
If the Mavs are playing, and a big game, and the Aggies are playing, I'm watching the Mavs. Yeah, I'm watching the Stars. I'm watching the Rangers before I get to, even if it's, the biggest game they could ever play.
Yeah.
If there's a Cowboys, I'm probably gonna watch that. If I have two channels, of course, you don't have to nowadays. Football, you can have 4 screens, but which actually, during the playoffs here this past season, where the Rangers were playing, the Stars were playing, and the Mavs were playing, I did pay $75 to Fubo, which I kind of want my money back, and because they overlap so much, and so you had to have at least 3 screens to watch all of them.
Okay, so not to veer off topic, but we can center it still on the topic today.
Yeah.
So all in, you can only watch all your favorite teams are playing in their biggest game ever. So
football.
World Series.
Done.
Okay.
Football.
You're picking the football game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
now so based on the things that we've talked about Bill Simmons, like give me your Bill Simmons take as to why football, or why you commit to whatever sport. Like, what goes into that decision?
Well, we grew up watching football. We grew up, playing football in the street. It's just one of those things that I loved watching it. I love the gamesmanship, the adjustments that the defense makes, the adjustment that the offense makes, the plays that they set up. That you're going to see that play again in the third quarter, but they put the second layer to it. To me, that when my son got old enough to play flag, well, back that up. I didn't play in high school. I went to 8th grade Spruce in Dallas, which is a 6A school, and there's no way, I would make that team. And so when I went to college, we played flag football. When we graduated from college, we did a flag football team here in San Antonio, the beer league, right? But we played for like 6 years. When my son was old enough to play sports, I coached.
So to say that
football.
you're not a bandwagon sports chooser, I don't even know how to label that, but then you're using the same analogy that you're applying for choosing a team, kind of, right? Pretty along similar lines is what it sounds like.
Well, if I'm so,
there's context. Right?
I thought this was really cool, and I'll post it on our Instagram or our Twitter page or X. So this guy carried around. He created this triangle, and so he made a hierarchy of his favorite teams, and so for mine it would be the Cowboys at the top, and then the Mavs, and then probably, the Rangers and the Stars kind of go back and forth, right? And then A&M is probably at the bottom. But he would carry that around, and then you could flip it, So say 1 year the Mavs aren't doing well and the Stars are just doing it. So it's kind of once again, it's fluid. But to me, the Cowboys are probably always at the top if I'm going to choose.
Yeah. So if the Cowboys are playing, so I know, Rangers and a Cowboys could be playing on the same day here in October. The Rangers the Rangers ain't gonna make it.
They won't, but they're playing in September.
But so
they're playing actually.
But I'm doing a hypothetical scenario.
Yeah.
So you have here it is October. The Rangers are either deep in the playoffs or
let's say they're in the World Series,
or they're in the World Series. Okay.
Yeah.
The Cowboys have a Titan matchup against somebody. Who are you watching?
I think you'd have to go World Series. I mean that's the top.
Yeah.
So I think there's no question about it. And we have done that. Let's say it was about 2010 when the Rangers were in the World Series.
With Ron Washington.
With Ron Washington. My sister and I, we have season tickets to the Cowboys. And that day, the Cowboys played at noon, and the Rangers played, I want to say like at 5 or 6. So in that case, we didn't go to the Cowboys game, and her and I went to the World Series game. And so we have had that scenario. And I mean, you have to go to a World Series game. Unfortunately, those 2 years, the Rangers didn't win, but just to say I did attend a World Series game was you got to do it.
And that's even if it was a marquee matchup for the Cowboys.
And at the time it was a Titan, so it wasn't really.
Yeah. I said Titan earlier, didn't I?
Yeah,
that's weird.
I think so. So anyway, we could. This is one of those topics that you could continue, discussing until the cows come home. But I think they're coming home now. Yeah. So we appreciate you sticking around this long. It's like I said, it's one of the better topics to discuss, especially if you're a sports fan. David, appreciate you hanging out with me today. I know DLH was not available today, but we figured we'd have a quick sports talk since NFL and college football kicked off. So unless you have something else,
No, well, good luck to your teams, everybody. I hope your team does really well and loses to my team, aka the 49ers.
Your fantasy football teams, your college teams, your NFL teams, your, I guess, the MLB's wrapping up here pretty soon. So, and then of course I think it's November, the NBA and the
NBA usually starts that last week of October. But their preseason will kick up
pretty soon.
Yeah, so
good luck to your teams unless they're facing our teams, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
We had our discussion. So what's the verdict? I mean, having rules to be a true sports fan, is that a good thing? Do we agree with most of these rules? Do you have an opinion on that?
Yes, well, you generally have to give grace in some circumstances and understanding to people's individual circumstances. I think at the end of the day, I'm going to give this a thumbs up.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I think we disagreed. I mean, not disagreed. I think we called out the ones that we didn't agree with, but overall, for the majority of the list, I totally subscribe to it. I think I stated earlier that I've adopted most of these when you have discussions about bandwagon fans. So, yeah, overall, pretty good list. I, urge you to check it out. I believe ESPN2's Bill Simmons is called Rules to Be a True Sports Fan. So there you have it, folks. Board approved. It's a good list.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have any other rules that you want to share, just make sure you put in the comments or let us know. Give us a contact. You can reach out to us on our emails. It's either Jaime or David at thechivalrychronicles.com. Shoot us an email. We'd love to hear your comments, especially if you have anything on the show. We'd like to hear that.
Man, we have emails now?
We do. We're getting fancy up in this.
Wow. Okay, guys. It's popping off now. So there you have it.
Absolutely.
All right. Take it easy, guys. And like we said, have a good season.
Whack is crack. Or crack is whack.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from us, you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.